As we've shown you in the past on the Retro Corner, Nintendo has quite a few skeletons in the console closet when it comes to their history. You might remember our Super Mario 2 episode we did a while ago. But while that's a kind of well-known conspiracy to the hardcore, this episode we've managed to uncover one that hardly anyone's aware of. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Quite possibly one of the most beloved boxing games of all time. Especially if you're an American. They just love punching stereotypes of foreigners for some reason. Now if I was to ask you what the sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was, you'd most probably answer,
"That's easy. It's Super Punch-Out on the Super Nintendo. Everyone knows that, you numbnuts."
yeah, well, actually be technically right, yeah. But there was a time in the early 90s when the Big N were developing a full-blown sequel for it on the NES. And strangest of all, it actually was released, albeit under a different name. Power Punch 2. Originally titled Mike Tyson's Intergalactic Power Punch, the game starred everyone's favourite low-biting slugger, who's decided he's too tough for puny human opponents, and so sets off into space to fight aliens and cyborgs and stuff. Unfortunately, the game was doomed from the start. As you all probably know, 1991 wasn't exactly the greatest of years for Iron Mike. Not only had he lost the World Championship belt to Buster Douglas a few months before due to a broken rib, he also managed to land himself in prison for 3 years, which obviously came as a blow to his career, no pun intended. So Nintendo, at the beginning of their whiter than white attitude of the 90s, didn't want such a controversial character promoting their title, so they replaced Mike with the not copyright infringing in any way Mark Tyler. You can still see a few remnants from the Mike Tyson license in the game. For instance, the main character is still the spitting image of Tyson, just wearing pink boxer shorts, and 2 characters in the background that look like slightly altered caricatures of Don King and Robin Givens, otherwise known as Tyson's ex-wife. The second big event in the game's history, and pretty much the nail in the coffin, was towards the end of development when Nintendo finally got to see the game in action, and were horrified to see the shoddy mess it had become. I know no one expects Super Mario Galaxy-esque gameplay from a boxing title, but it was genuinely awful. For starters, the Australian developer Beam Software decided to scrap all of Punch-Out's tactical fights, the main factor which the series was synonymous for, and instead replaced it with brainless button bashing and extremely unbalanced opponents. They can literally knock you down in 4 or 5 punches, while it takes 20 punches from you just to knock 1 bar off their health meter. And worst of all, the graphics look significantly worse than the originals, a game that had been released 5 years beforehand. So Nintendo in their infinite wisdom pulled the plug on the Punch-Out sequel, and Beam were forced to sell it elsewhere under a different name. Unfortunately, American Softworks came to the rescue and eventually released the monstrosity a year later as Power Punch 2, despite the fact there's no Power Punch 1. The game sold unremarkably and faded into obscurity, so chances are this is the first time most of you have even heard of it. Beam went on to make another god-awful boxing game, KO Boxing, starring everyone's favourite PS3 grill-spamming goit George Foreman, which I unfortunately bought as a kid, so I feel this pain especially. But in fairness, Beam did also make the phenomenally good Shadowrun and Super Smash TV for the SNES, which are now regarded as all-time classics.
I'd buy that for $1.
I guess sports just weren't their forte. So there you go, another title brought to light from the bottom of the Retro Corner cupboard. I usually end these pieces with me saying if you ever find a copy, it's well worth a look. But on this occasion, no. If you see one, for the love of God, destroy the dang thing, as this spawn of Satan doesn't deserve to exist.
This has been a Portland Interactive production for XLeague.tv.
I'm not a winner here. I bet don't steal my idea though, Paul.